Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 499 and to 500 freaking days of Ukraine war, and for the 7th to the 8th of July. And let's start off with the Southern Front. The Ukrainian forces continue to land forces over in the Kherson region, over at Kremki and Oleshki. So over at the Antonovsky Bridge region at Dachi, the Ukrainian forces continue to be landing troops over at this bridge area here. And probably there is still Ukrainian forces over at this area here, which is kind of unclear. We didn't have reports of fighting. Maybe the Russians just gave up, just land away. Not sure. Didn't see any reports about the fighting over at Dachi region. Over at the other area, there is some reports of it's Kreniki. The Ukrainian forces allegedly landed nearby in the village of Kreniki. So this reported by Ryba, the pro-Russian source, but it's unclear exactly where the landing is, because if you talk about Kreniki is actually pretty long. You see, it's so long, like a snake or a eel, unagi. Yeah, and then but they could actually land over at this islands region, and then they try to secretly move towards Krenki. So, or they could actually land next to Krenki. We are not sure. The pro-Russian source did not really specify in details exactly what it is. So that's it from the Southern Fronts. That's all we know. And also I have return to the use of Google Earth for quick updates, and it's also the return of quick updates, and it will actually it's a bit different from SITREP. SITREP is for the hardcore viewers, the hardcore people who follows the Ukraine war, and almost daily what is happening. So the SITREP is perfect for you guys, but for the layman, maybe the quick updates may actually be more entertaining for them. So that's the difference. And for those that want to follow the DPA's reporting and not to miss any of the videos, do subscribe to the Telegram channel, because that is the place where you definitely see me posting, and it's directly within the channel, so you don't miss things. Not like in Twitter, you might actually miss it, because there's so much things happening over at Twitter. And of course, YouTube really depends on whether YouTube want to push the video to you or the community post to you. So the best place is actually Telegram channel. And over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, we have a Ukrainian Sukhoi 25 shot down over Avdiivka. So this is Sukhoi 27 has been largely used nowadays. Sukhoi 25 is used as an attack aircraft. So they got shot down by air defense, so it's a surface to air missiles or something. And over at the Kayamsky sector, this is Kayamsky. At the Kayamsky sector, there is fighting reported at Lokove region, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So they say the Russian Defense Ministry reported yesterday that they have thwarted an offensive. The latest information that I read, which tentatively cannot be verified, is that the pro-Russian sources saying that the Ukrainian forces have retreated away from Petikaki. Cannot be verified at this moment. I will see whether we have more confirmed information about this Ukrainian withdrawal away from Petikaki. So you will probably see it in the next SITREP, in tomorrow's SITREP. So otherwise, we do not have fighting over at Zarebianki. So that's the end of the fighting, I guess. So moving on. Yeah, so it's not really the end, because I just said that there's fighting at Lubkove. Yeah. Over at Orikhiv sector, this is Orikhiv. Over at Orikhiv sector, we have another aircraft shot down, a Sukhoi 25 shot down over Novosilka. This is shot down over on the 7th of July by Igla. Igla is actually a handheld, human-held, personnel-held surface-to-air missile. And I missed this report in the previous SITREP. It's actually another Sukhoi 25 shot down over Novo and Andriivka. This by air defense, and this actually is like a huge number of Sukhoi 25 getting shot down. I really do not know how many Sukhoi 25 the Ukrainians have, because there is actually a lot of shoot downs over the past month or two. And the Ukrainian forces over in the north of Robotyne continues their offensive towards Robotyne. And in the latest information coming from Ryba, the pro-Russian sources, Russian Defense Ministry simply reported there is fighting over this region here. But Ryba actually in their mapping shows that the Ukrainians able to break through to the advanced stronghold. Basically, it's the first line of defense. And tentatively, due to heavy rain, their reinforcement and resupply have some problems. The fighting is still ongoing. So if you look at Robotyne, this is Robotyne. The Ukrainian forces have actually reached the first line of defense in the northeast of Robotyne. So there's one heavy entrenchment. This is part of the first line of defense. The Ukrainian forces have arrived, and fighting is currently ongoing in this area here in the first line of defense at Robotyne. So for those that continue to discredit the Ukrainian armed forces, I think you should rethink, because even if they are making untenable losses, they're still making progress, and making progress is what they need. Because that's how they can encourage NATO to continue to give them more aids, money, weapon supplies, and ammunition. So, don't underestimate it, because Ukraine still have a lot of men. They can definitely throw another 1 or 2 million lives into this war. It's normal. If you look in the war scale of things, in a full-fledged all-out war, having a few million people dying in a war is possible, or at least filling up an army with 1 or 2 million people. It is not impossible. So the Ukrainian forces can still continue to launch their offensive or continue to fight the Russians until the last Ukrainians, maybe, but they can, as long as NATO continue to supply them with weapons and ammunition and whatever they need. So this progress is important. They have finally reached the first line of defense at Robotyne. Over at the Huyapole sector, things start to get a bit heated up over at this region here. We have 2 reconnaissance by combat over at Zaporizhzhia. Reconnaissance by combat basically is you send a large force and then you just attack without knowing exactly where the Russian forces are. So that's basically reconnaissance by combat. And this attack is also reported at Mariupol, which means that this attack is most likely a full frontal push in this region here, and trying to find where are the Russian forces, where they are definitely holding very strongly, because Zaporizhzhia has been and Mariupol has been pretty much of a very strong it's like a stronghold for the Russians so far in this war. I haven't seen Ukrainians have much success over at this area here, and we shall continue to watch, because like I said before, this seems like the weakest line, because the length, the depth of the defense doesn't look that big, at least based on the heavy entrenchments to go. Over at the Velyka Novosilka sector, Velyka Novosilka sector, some major progress. The Ukrainian forces seems to have captured the entire river line. So the Russians previously set up a defense line along the river. It looks like they have been forced back by the Ukrainian forces, with the Ukrainian forces overrunning the positions, with a major attack coming from the south of Rivnopil and from the west from Levadne. And so if I zoom out a bit, this is Rivnopil. The main attack come down from this area here, and then from Levadne they push eastward, and this forced the Russians to fall back. And if they fall back from this river line, and which means the next line of defense will be exactly at Prione region. So this is where the fighting is ongoing, with the Ukrainians actually launching attack at Prione. All this information, the information and fighting at Prione is from the Russian Defense Ministry. The loss of the river defense line is actually by Ryba, the pro-Russian source. However, over at this western part of Staromayorsky, the Russians actually are making some progress in a counter attack, where they managed to secure more buffer zone on the western part of Staromayorsky. So otherwise, it looks very highly maneuver. The situation over here very fluid. On the eastern part of the Velyka Novosilka sector, the Ukrainian forces is reportedly attacking Novodonetsk. Information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry, they said that They found a sabotage and reconnaissance group on the western part of Novodonetsk. The Russian Defense Ministry also reported that they have thwarted major offensive actions against Robotyne. Russian aircraft and artillery have stopped. So artillery and heavy flamethrower system have repelled an enemy attack. And then the next day, on the 8th of July, this is included. The defensive action includes now with the Air Force. So the Ukrainian forces can't even reach Robotyne on the eastern side of the Velyka Novosilka sector. So the fighting is still ongoing. With this continues to be one of the prime fighting region that we are looking at over in the Ukraine war. Over at the Donetsk Front, we have fighting reported at Velyka. So according to According to the Russian Defense Ministry's Vostok Group of Forces, they say that their advanced unit of their forces, supported by artillery, attacked a Ukrainian concentration area near Velyka, which means the Russian forces actually launched some kind of attack nearby of Velyka. So interesting to see this happen. Maybe it's the diversionary. I don't think this is an offensive. It doesn't feel like it. And over at the Marinka, the town of Marinka, the Battle of Marinka continues, with the Russians continue to be reported to be the one attacking over at Marinka by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 7th and on the 8th. The Russian Defense Ministry then say that they repelled Ukrainian attack over at Marinka as well. So we continue to have this parallel universe at Marinka. Nothing new. Over at the Avdiivka sector, over at Avdiivka region, the Russian forces launched an attack on Novosilka on the 7th and on the 8th, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The attack also spread over to Pervomaisky on the 8th, which means that the Russians are attacking in this area here. However, if you look at the Russian Defense Ministry, they are reporting that the Ukrainians are under attack over at Pervomaisky. So yeah, we shall see who is how this goes. Usually the fighting over at this region doesn't really have any kind of results per se. And the Ukrainian offensive over at the western part of Avdiivka continues, with fighting reported at Vodian and near Zhevene. All the reports coming from the Russian Defense Ministry. So they continue to report that the Ukrainians are attacking over in this region here. We do not have any other sources that can corroborate this information. So yeah, so take it with a pinch of salt. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry say that the Russians are attacking in the Avdiivka region, and based on previous reports, we can project that this is actually from the eastern part, from Krutabalka region. The Russians are attacking in this area here. Further up north of Avdiivka city, the Ukrainians continue their attack over in the south of Krasnohorivka and at Veselay. So this is Veselay, this small little village over here. So the Ukrainian forces continue to be attacking in this area here. Most likely it's not some kind of major offensive. It's probably some skirmishes over at the front lines. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that the Russians are attacking Stepove, and Novokalinove, which is very unusual if you ask me. Information all coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So the entire Avdiivka front is all about the Defense Ministry's accusations at each other, attacking them. So we have to take it with a pinch of salt, but it does looks like a lot of action is happening around at the Avdiivka front. So far, war footages coming out from Avdiivka front are largely Russian bombardments, using artillery, missiles, airstrikes over in the area of Avdiivka. So we do not really have much footages of any kind of any skirmishes or on the ground offensive or operation or assault. So moving on from Avdiivka, we have nothing over at the New York front. This is New York or Torske, and very near to the edge of New York front, basically at the very southern tip of the Bakhmut front, at the Mayos region. The Russian Defense Ministry reported fighting near Druzhba. This Druzhba. They say that the Ukrainians are attacking near the area of Druzhba. And then Vostok, I think not Vostok, but I'm not sure, Southern Military District reported that the Russian forces has repelled Ukrainian forces fighting at Mayos. So which means, so this is Mayos, and the Ukrainian forces is currently attacking Mayos, which means this information about Druzhba might actually be related. It might actually be the same attack. So the Russian forces is currently still holding the line. Mayos has not fallen yet. Mayos holds. So with that, all Russians have mayonnaise. So that's pretty good. Not very healthy. You should just eat plain bread. In fact, you should not eat bread. It's still it's still sugar. You should just eat sand. Yeah. And moving in Bakhmut city, there is fighting continue in the southern front over at Klishevka region. The Russian forces managed to counterattack and recapture some lost territory over at this area here, as they managed to strengthen their positions over in the high ground region. However, the Ukrainian forces continue to be attacking over at the southwest and the northern part of Klishevka. Fighting is still ongoing, very fierce fighting, and there is also, I think, some kind of a high ground or entrenchment over at this northern part of Klishevka has been taken by the Ukrainian forces. I saw some footages. Based on the geography, it looks like this. Looks like this area here, and quite a number of the Russian soldiers seems to be killed based on the footage. So we shall see how this goes. A lot of counter claims from both sides. Some say the Ukrainians are way more successful. Some say that the Russian counteroffensive is it's not true. Based on some of the comments I read, I can tell that we are all living in the multiverse. So whatever it is, this is the latest I have. Believe it or not believe, up to you. And over at the northern flank, the fighting continues with the Ukrainian forces continue to be attacking towards Yakhidne, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Surya Maps and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that the Russians are attacking at Bakhmut, and the Surya Maps reported that the Russians managed to secure this area here, just off the reservoir at the Bakhmut reservoir, and the Russians are currently on the offensive in this area here to try to secure a stronger buffer zone for Bakhmut. And the Ukrainian forces attacking at Yakhidne. Yeah, very interesting how this dynamics goes. Anyway, moving on, further up north, we have fighting reported at Blahodane. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they say that it's Donetsk region at Shatarsky direction. I'm not too sure exactly which Blahodane is referring to. I'm presupposing it's this one, because this is the one that is closest to the front line. And this report of fighting in this area has been reported on both days, 7 on the 8th. The other Blahodane is actually over here. This is the other Blahodane. But if you look at this Blahodane, it's actually very far away from the front line. So it's very hard to really think that is the one. So I'm currently presupposing that it's actually this area. And it feels like this might be a projection. Maybe it's a Ukrainian offensive towards Blahodane, and they say that it's the Russians that is currently attacking. I kind of have a feeling that this is the case. Over at the Siversk Front, we have fighting reported at Vasily, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, on the 8th of July, with the Russians attacking Vasily. So that's all we have from the Vasily area. Over at the Bilohorivka region, the Russian Defense Ministry, Ryba, reported that the Ukrainians continue to be attacking over at Bilohorivka. In this area here, we not much progress as far as I can tell. Over at the Kreminna Front, at the Kreminna Front, the Ukrainians launched a massive offensive over the entire front line. It stretches all the way up to this area here at Kovalivka and Novosilka. So we go from the southern part, we have over at the forest region, or the Serebransky forestry, or the forest plantation of Serebransky. There is fighting reported within the forestry, basically nearby in the Krychorivka region, and there's also fighting reported south of Dibrova. This information is coming also from Ryba. Most of the information is from Ryba. The fighting is over here. Whoops, sorry, wrong button. So in this area, fighting in the south. However, on the 7th of July, the Russians say that the their active actions, center group of forces active actions actually attack this. That means the Russians are actually on the attack against Ukrainian forces near Dubrova. However, the fighting continues. The main offensive is still mostly by the Ukrainians. They are attacking Dubrova from the south, probably from the east as well. And then from Torske region, we have a change of front line. Previously, the front line looks like this. Based on the latest mapping by Ryba or the pro-Russian sources, I have mapped the mapping like this, which makes a lot more sense, which means the Ukrainians can attack Dubrova more directly. And the fighting at Torske is mostly over in this northeastern part of Torske. And the Ukrainians are launching offensive over at on the 7th and on the 8th. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, fighting near Torske. So the Russians are attacking this area here. Sorry, the Ukrainians are attacking the Russians from this area. And the offensive also appears at Yampolivka as well. Further up north, we have fighting reported at Nevsky. Nevsky information is a bit conflicted. They say that they are the one attacking Nevsky on the 7th. However, Ryba says that it's the Ukrainians that is on the offensive over at Nevsky. So unclear who is actually attacking who. Further up north, there is fighting reported at Makievka, at Novosilka, and over at Novoyehorivka. So all this information coming from the same sources is the Russian Defense Ministry, or by it's by the Russian Defense Ministry. So that's all from the Kreminna Front. Moving into the Svatove Front. This is Svatove. At Svatove Front, the Russians are largely on the offensive over at this area. You're fighting over at the Novosilka region, Berestove, and Stemakivka. So you can see that the fighting over at this entire front is all Russians that is on the offensive. Information coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on both days. On both days, and also at the Novosilka region. Russian Defense Ministry say that there's a recon force or probing attack on the 7th at Novosilka, but most likely it's just Ukrainian forces trying to defend themselves. They are moving around, and the Russians are on the offensive. So let's see how this goes over at the Svatove region. Into the Kupyansk Front. Nice quote. There's nothing here. and there's nothing over the Kharkiv Front, and nothing over at the border region. And that's it for the summary of the for the day of 499 to the day of 500 in the Ukraine war. And 7 to 8 of July. Do press the like button, subscribe, and also check out the Telegram channel. Do subscribe over there. I will be expanding the reporting over at Telegram, and hopefully we will be reporting more news from all around the world. And see you in the next update.